You can now get 2 free audiobook downloads and a 30-day free trial at audible.bogosity.tv. Your choice from the world's largest selection of over 180,000 digital audiobooks and spoken word content for your iOS or Android device, Kindle, or MP3 player. Go to audible.bogosity.tv now. Welcome to the Bogosity podcast for the week of July 16th, 2017. The podcast that's 8 miles out of Memphis and got no spare. This is your host, Shane Killian, and returning this week is Daniel Wilcox. Welcome back, Daniel.
Hey, long time no see.
Let's anarchify the news of the bogus. So we start with a story about Seattle's minimum wage, which is being increased up to $15 an hour and is currently at $13. Basically, everyone who passed Econ 101 predicted that this would be a bad move. Now, a study from the University of Washington in cooperation with the city of Seattle and released as an NBER working paper has confirmed that, yes, the laws of basic economics still apply.
Shocking.
They found that there are 6.8% fewer low-wage jobs and that hours for those who still are employed fell 9.4%.
I have some friends over on the Crossroads I debate with from time to time. Shout out to my buddy Pedro and my dog Shepherd. They talk about the risk of automation replacing jobs, and, I wonder why.
Yeah, because according to Say's law, it shouldn't. It just frees up labor resources, and then they can be hired to do other things, just like when automation reduced the number of jobs on the farm, people went and did other things. But when you have, and the study talks about this, when you have something like a minimum wage, it's like, oh, okay, I can't afford to hire these people anymore, so I might as well automate. So they also found a statistical anomaly. They did find a net wage increase of 3.1%, and you bet your bottom dollar they're all going to be pointing at that going, hey, look, see, haha, don't listen to those kooky Austrian economics libertarian people. But despite that, they found that workers making under $19 an hour are earning $125 less per month than they were before. And that's why you need to be careful of these aggregate statistics, because a lot of times they can tell you the opposite of what's really going on. So according to economist Jacob Vigdor, one of the study's authors, quote, "The goal of this policy was to deliver high incomes to people who were struggling to make ends meet in the city. You've got to watch out because at some point you run the risk of harming the people you set out to help." But I do have to throw a brickbat at this 538 article. Listen to this, quote, "Most, though by no means all, past research has found that modest increases to the minimum wage have little impact on employment." Well, guess what? What looks like little impact in the statistical data can have a very real effect on the actual living, breathing people who just lost their jobs. But it really seems like the best the pro-minimum wage side can come up with is little impact.
Well, you know what they say, a million is a statistic.
1 or 2 people die is a tragedy, 1 million people die is a statistic.
And again, it goes into the seen and the unseen. Like, people don't, not quite in the way Bastiat means, but, people don't really see these consequences, so out of sight, out of mind.
Well, I mean, you can if you know what to look for. It's kind of like that first scene in The Hudsucker Proxy when Tim Robbins' character, first gets off the train and goes looking for work, and they all want experience, and of course he doesn't have any because he's just fresh out of college. But that's what you get with things like a minimum wage. When you have that price floor on wages, then you're going to have the experienced people, because it's the experienced people who can demand the higher salary, and the people who are just starting out kind of get left out.
Also, it's really interesting to think about, if you tried to implement a price floor on anything else, people would riot.
Yeah, because they're the ones who would have to pay it. But you see, with minimum wage, someone else has to pay it. The authors concluded, quote, Prior studies have attempted to analyze minimum wage effects using data resources that do not permit the direct observation of hourly wages. In those situations, researchers resort to using proxies for low-wage workers by examining particular industries that employ higher concentrations of low-wage labor or by restricting the analysis to teenagers. This paper demonstrates that such strategies likely misstate the true impact of minimum wage policies on opportunities for low-skilled workers. Our finding of zero impact on headcount employment in the restaurant industry echoes many prior studies. Our findings also demonstrate, however, that this estimation strategy yields results starkly different from methods based on direct analysis of low-wage employment. And that's also something you'll see from leftists, because they love focusing on restaurants, but they never seem to want to point out that many restaurant employees, like servers, are exempt from the minimum wage because they get tips.
Oh, yeah.
They also concluded, quote, an elasticity of -3 suggests that low-wage labor is a more substitutable, expendable factor of production. The work of least paid workers might be performed more efficiently by more skilled and experienced workers commanding a substantially higher wage. This work could, in some circumstances, be automated. In other circumstances, employers may conclude that the work of least paid workers need not be done at all. So I really think it's time that people step forward and demanded an end to this psychopathic policy. So I've included a link in the show notes to Downsize DC, where you can pass this information from this study onto your congressman.
Here's hoping.
Say, if you're tired of the promos in this podcast, well, the patrons got it early and with no ads or promos. Just go to patreon.bogosity.tv and donate at any level. Do you have children or nieces or nephews? Are you homeschooling, or just want to counter some of the socialist indoctrination most children get in school? If so, go to bogosity.tv/TuttleTwins, and you'll be taken to a website where you can get some great books for elementary-age children. The Tuttle Twins books are books about liberty and free market economics that include children's versions of Bastiat's The Law, Leonard Read's I, Pencil, and Hayek's The Road to Serfdom, as well as books about the Federal Reserve and how regulations protect business cronies. They'll learn about the harm caused by eminent domain, or regulations passed in the name of safety, and fundamental concepts of liberty. And as you can see from the sample pages on the website, they're all easy to read and nicely illustrated. They're just $9.99 a piece, or get a special discount as well as free bonuses when you purchase all 5. You can even buy in bulk to donate to schools and local libraries. So get the Tuttle Twins books at bogosity.tv/TuttleTwins. Last week, we talked about the W3C officially adopting DRM as a standard for the web. Now they've officially announced the publication, and it's every bit as bad as we thought. I'm linking to an article from Cory Doctorow, writing for the EFF. And by the way, on an unrelated note, I'm in the middle of reading his new novel, Walkaway, and it is excellent so far.
Huh. Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's brand new. It just came out like a few weeks ago, I think. So as Dr. O says, the real problem here is laws like the DMCA. Quote, under these laws, people who bypass DRM to do legal things, like investigate code defects that create dangerous security vulnerabilities, can face civil and criminal penalties. Practically speaking, bypassing DRM isn't hard. Google's version of DRM was broken for 6 years before anyone noticed. But that doesn't matter. Even low-quality DRM gets the copyright owner the extremely profitable right to stop their customers and competitors from using their product except in the ways that the rights holder specifies.
So basically, DRM, in a security sense, is security theater at best.
That's exactly what it is, because, the way encryption works, we've talked about this before, you have an encryption key, and that's used to decrypt the data, and that needs to be kept secret. Well, you have to decrypt the movie or whatever it is in order to watch it, so they need to give you the decryption key. So that kind of defeats the whole purpose of encrypting it. So they need laws like the DMCA to make it illegal for you to try to grab that encryption key and decrypt it and do something with it. So he continues, quote, EFF understood that the W3C had members who wanted to make DRM, so we suggested a compromise, a covenant, modeled on the existing W3C member agreement that would require members to make a binding promise only to use the law to attack people who infringed copyright, and to leave people alone if they bypassed DRM for legal reasons, like making W3C standardized video more accessible for people with disabilities. The W3C's DRM advocates didn't like the idea.
We already know how much these people are known for holding to their promises.
Yeah. Quote, take security. The W3C's specification says that users' computers should be protected from privacy-invading activities by DRM vendors, but without a covenant, it's impossible to check whether this is happening. On the question of accessibility, the W3C has simply ignored the substantial formal and informal objections raised by its members, including members with deep expertise in accessibility such as Vision Australia, Media Access Australia, Benetech, and the RNIB. These organizations pointed out that having a place for assistive data was nice, but to make video accessible, it was necessary to use computers to generate that data. And really, this should have been in the spec. No one breaching EME-based DRM for the purpose of security research or accessibility or any other legal reason should be held liable under the DMCA or any of these laws around the world. Everyone wanted that clause except the big content companies, and Tim Berners-Lee sold us out. The standard basically says, pretty please don't do this, but it doesn't offer any protections for that at all.
Wow, Tim Berners-Lee, that's a name I haven't heard.
Well, he's still head of the W3C.
Oh, wow, he's still around?
Oh, yeah, very active. It gets worse, quote, for a browser to support EME, it must also license a content decryption module, CDM. Without a CDM, video just doesn't work. All the big incumbents advocating for DRM have licenses for CDMs, but new entrants to the market will struggle to get these CDMs.
So more cronyism. Shocking.
Yep. And in order to get them, they have to make promises to restrict otherwise legal activities. For example, CDM licensing terms prevent users in some parts of Europe from seeing videos made available in other parts of the EU. And I was just thinking of other ways this might be abused. I mean, imagine if the police started putting DRM on dash cam videos and body cam videos and then went after everyone who shared a video of police abuse online.
Oh, God.
That could theoretically happen with this.
And it'll finally be technically illegal to film cops.
Well, not to film them because that would be something that you'd created, but to use the...
Oh, right, yeah.
Use the body cam footage or whatever. If they put DRM on it,
right,
then that's it. So Dr. O concludes, quote, we're dismayed to see the W3C literally overrule the concerns of its public interest members, security experts, accessibility members, and innovative startup members, putting the institution's thumb on the scales for the large incumbents that dominate the web, ensuring that that dominance lasts forever. They could have protected security researchers. They could have protected people with impairments who need specialized software to access the data. They could have protected the rights of all people worldwide. They specifically and deliberately chose not to.
Yeah, I know, as someone with an impairment myself, certain things are borderline impossible for me to access otherwise, you know?
Yeah, well, like if you're visually impaired and you want to use text-to-speech, the text-to-speech software needs to be able to grab the text of the ebook or whatever it is to read it out. If you want to go the other way, if you're hearing impaired and you want to listen to, podcasts aren't DRM, but if you want to listen to something like that, a radio show or something that has DRM, it's going to need to be able to take the audio from that and try and convert it into speech and put it on your computer screen.
Yeah, that hardly works these days, though.
It's getting better, but the point is, people need to be able to do this. Or people need to be able to see text larger with contrasting colors and things like that. But the software to do all of that needs to be able to go inside and get the data past the DRM. So with DRM, you basically have to kind of hope that the content makers are providing a way to do this. Because if not, then actually doing that is against the law. So the EFF has appealed this, and hopefully they can make a difference.
Here's hoping.
If you're on the Wi-Fi in a coffee shop or hotel, anyone on that network can get your traffic. Do you really trust all of those strangers? For that matter, do you really trust your ISP? A VPN can protect you from prying eyes, disguise your location, and even foil government censors. It's essential in this day and age, so go to vpn.bogosity.tv and you'll be taken to BoxPN. Starting at just $2.99 a month, you can get unlimited high-speed connections to VPN servers all over the world, and they don't log connections, so your privacy is assured. Traveling abroad, just VPN home, and don't worry about what those other governments are doing. Back at home, stop your ISP from traffic shaping and messing with the quality internet access you're paying good money for. You can connect from multiple machines at once, including your smartphone or tablet, and it supports all the secure standards, including OpenVPN and SSTP. Bypass censors and surveillance with your own secure VPN connection. Go to vpn.bogosity.tv. We've been covering the corruption in the Brazilian government and the huge movement to oust these corrupt politicians, including President Michel Temer. In fact, shortly before we recorded this, former President Lula da Silva was convicted of accepting bribes to the tune of 3.7 million reals, about $1.2 million, and sentenced to 9.5 years. I'm not sure how that directly connects in to the events we'll cover in this story, but Glenn Greenwald of The Intercept has a good write-up on what's been happening lately. Temer now has a record low 7% approval rating. One reason why? Audio tapes were released showing him approving bribes to silence a key witness in the corruption investigation.
Wait, could you repeat that?
Basically, he approved the use of bribes to pay a witness not to testify.
What?
Yeah, they've got him on audio tape doing that.
And he's getting away with it, it seems.
Well, it's resulted in renewed calls for his impeachment or his resignation. He has been formally charged with accepting bribes, and that makes him the first president in Brazilian history ever to become a criminal defendant while still in office.
Well, hopefully he gets impeached. I've seen cries for impeachment for much less.
Yeah. So many prominent Brazilian figures, including actors, artists, and politicians from multiple parties, have launched a new campaign to remove Temer and fully investigate all of this corruption. And there's a hilarious video about halfway down the page. One of those corrupt politicians, Vladimir Costa, addressed Congress, and, go watch that video. It's in Portuguese, but it's subtitled in English. But it's as much about his demeanor as it is what's being said. Basically, he called all the actors and musicians behind the campaign tramps and bums, and said it was a campaign of intimidation, and it's a meltdown that is just beautiful to behold.
So one giant large-scale ad hominem.
It borders on art, I'm telling you. This has got to be memed. Someone out there meme this guy. Of course, one issue, as Greenwald points out, is the all-important question of what happens after Temer is removed. After all, their previous president, Dilma Rousseff, was impeached on the promise that things would get better, but of course they got Temer and things only got worse. But as we discussed when it happened last year, that was largely done by the corrupt politicians who were apparently trying to have a scapegoat, and Rousseff might very well have been innocent. And it's also hard to imagine how much worse it could get than a corrupt official who engages in outright bribery, but not impossible, which is the scary part. At any rate, best of luck to Brazilians in cleaning up their government.
Break a leg.
Break Temer's legs, how about that? We live in a world where light bulbs connect to the internet, and recent attacks on them prove that your online security is under threat like never before. Not only your websites, but the internet-enabled devices you buy. And the biggest problem is weak passwords. That's why you need LastPass. LastPass allows you to randomly generate strong, unique passwords on the web and on your internet-enabled devices, all protected by one master password. LastPass sets up in minutes and gives you secure automatic logins throughout the web, synchronizing across all your browsers, all your computers, and even your mobile devices, at home, at work, or on the road. It even securely stores sensitive form data, including credit card numbers, backup sensitive documents, software licenses, Wi-Fi logins, and more. And with LastPass Premium, you can get these benefits on other applications, manage passwords for your entire family, and also get priority customer support. Sign up at password.bogosity.tv for a free month of LastPass Premium. Log in securely everywhere using the last password you'll ever have to remember. Go to password.bogosity.tv and get LastPass now. And now it's time to cornucopiate this week's biggest Bogon emitter. And for the fourth time, it goes to Salon.com. This time to Sophia A. McClennen for her article, Forget Fake News. Alt-right memes could do more damage to democracy. Oh, Saloon, I wonder why you don't want us thinking about fake news.
Saloon?
Yeah, that's our pet name for it, remember?
Oh, forgot about that. Hey, saloons are fine, upstanding establishments where somebody can get a drink if they need to.
It's like they've been spending too much time in one, is the...
Oh, I get it.
So, yes, this is about the CNN blackmail controversy we covered last week. McClennen writes, quote, "The real lesson for CNN and other mainstream news outlets is not that the president is immature enough to share a stupid meme attacking the news, but rather that their focus on fake news has distracted them from the real story, the rise of emotional, aggressive, inflammatory, bigoted communication on social media, and the power these posts have had in shaping the ideas of the Trump-supporting alt-right." Basically, they're complaining about the alt-right doing what they've been doing for years.
And this is now a problem because... Potato?
Quote, "Well beyond the problem of fake news, which at least try to pose as news, these posts are pure opinion, outburst, and excess." Yeah, not at all like this article.
So trying to pose as news makes it okay, but it being an opinion makes it unforgivable.
If you have an opinion and you try to pass it off as news, that's okay, but if you make it a shit post, that's terrible. Quote, "At a moment in U.S. history where trust in the news media is at a record low," gee, I wonder why that would be, "we are seeing the growing power of individuals outside of traditional media circuits, good, who have built a following by suggesting that their voices are more authentic and more accurate than those of the so-called liberal elitist majority silencing news. Keep shoveling, Saloon, you're only digging your own grave."
I wonder, do undertakers dig their own graves?
It would be quite an undertaking if they did. Here's how clueless this stupid woman is. Quote, "Compare two posts. One by a U.S. congressman who wrote a post after a terror attack in London that called for the slaughter of radicalized Muslims," and this is a quote within a quote, "hunt them, identify them, and kill them," end quote, declared U.S. Representative Clay Higgins, a Louisiana Republican. "Kill them all for the sake of all that is good and righteous, kill them all." And one by Boston poet and Black Lives Matter activist Didi Delgado, "All white people are racist. Start from this reference point or you've already failed." Delgado's post was removed and her Facebook account was disabled for 7 days. Higgins's post was untouched. Such practices certainly suggest deep political biases in the way that Facebook censors users. No, McClennen, this demonstrates your inability to distinguish between advocating military action or the death penalty for certain individuals who have committed terrible crimes and every single person based solely on the color of their skin. And that's very telling. Quote, "The challenge facing CNN isn't a president who will tweet an immature and aggressive video of himself attacking them. It is the reality that a significant subset of Americans, including ones who work in the White House, are more likely to be influenced by a Reddit user who goes by the ID Han Asshole Solo than they are by a commentator for CNN." Well, really? You're really trying to convince us that this shit post changed anyone's mind about anything and wasn't just being shared by people who already agreed with its message?
I mean, that's usually how it happens. Like, people who see the stuff and already agree with it are the ones who share it, not people whose minds are fundamentally blown.
Yeah, but I mean, they have to have some kind of narrative for why everyone isn't on their side, and so they have to paint everyone as racist or, easily swayed by Reddit memes or whatever.
Kind of reminds me of how insane it all is that just the idea that they didn't win has become the subject of multiple conspiracy theories from them.
Yeah, and it's not often we have someone shoveling it this much, but when they do, it usually turns out to be Salon. So that's why they, and McClennen in particular, have taken this week's biggest Bogon emitter. If you're going to shop online, use our special links to shop at Amazon. Clear your cookies and go to amazon.bogosity.tv, and you won't pay a penny more for your purchase. If you haven't used the mobile app in the last 12 months, or even at all, go to get5.bogosity.tv on your phone or tablet and get $5 off your order of $10 or more. Go to prime.bogosity.tv for a free 30-day trial of Amazon Prime and enjoy thousands of movies and TV episodes, borrow Kindle books, and get unlimited 2-day shipping for free. And speaking of Kindle, go to kindle.bogosity.tv for a 30-day free trial to Kindle Unlimited. Read over 1 million books and listen to thousands of audiobooks on any device. You can go to music.bogosity.tv and get a free 30-day trial of Amazon Music Unlimited with access to Amazon's entire library of 10 million songs, ad-free and with unlimited skips, and even download to listen offline. All great ways to help this podcast simply by shopping at Amazon. And now let's colorectify this week's
Idiot Extraordinaire!
And just like that, the length of this podcast is doubled. So we've talked before about the anarcho-communist group known as Antifa, the group that insists they're anti-fascist. In fact, it's where their name comes from. But it's been noted by many that the ideas they espouse, as well as their tactics, is pretty much a match for fascism. Driving the point home, at a recent impeach Trump rally, someone who, unbeknownst to the crowd, was a Trump supporter, took a turn with a megaphone and proceeded to give a rousing speech that got applause from the crowd throughout. The thing is, his speech was comprised entirely of quotes from Adolf Hitler. There were a few changes made to tailor it for the audience, but nothing of substance. Policy-wise, everything is exactly what Hitler stood for.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You okay?
Yeah. I'm good.
Here's the issue. What people mostly know about Hitler is he was a crazy man who hated Jews. But they really don't understand what the fascism of the Nazis was, or even of Mussolini. Leftists seem to think it's some kind of extreme capitalism. In reality, it's an extreme form of socialism, as these quotes demonstrate. He talks about, quote, the oppressive regime that constitutes capitalism, and said, quote, we are socialists. We are enemies of the capitalistic economic system for the exploitation of the economically weak with its unfair salaries, its unseemly evaluation of a human being according to wealth and property, instead of responsibility and performance, and we are all determined to destroy this system under all conditions. Other Hitler quotes he used included, benefit to the community precedes benefit to the individual. Each property owner should consider himself appointed by the state. It is his duty not to use his property against the interests of others among his own people. A policy of laissez-faire in this sphere is not only cruelty to the individual guiltless victims, but also to the nation as a whole.
Yes, because that sounds so terribly capitalist.
Well, it shouldn't be surprising to anyone who knows what the real name of the Nazi Party is, which is...
National Socialist German Workers' Party.
That's it.
I've had some conversations with some of my friends from the other groups. A lot of them have some fairly interesting opinions on them. I'd like to get some of them on to get some perspectives, on a hangout or something at some point.
Yeah, that would be cool. We could do that. And we probably should say that Although Antifa are anarcho-communists, they by no means represent all anarcho-communists.
Yeah, hashtag not all.
Yeah. But after this guy finished speaking, the leader of Refuse Fascism tried to sign him up. Check it out yourself. It's at the end of the video.
Oh my god.
Yep, really liked what he had to say. Yeah, Hitler and Mussolini were both leftists, which is why it's so bogus when socialists try to associate them with capitalism. But I guess it's like that meme says, I don't know what capitalism is, so I'll call it fascism because I don't know what that is either. So all of that makes Antifa and its allies this week's
Idiot Extraordinaire!
Well, that wraps up this It's Like Someone's Killing a Cat in Here edition of the Bogosity podcast. Come join the discussion at forum.bogosity.tv and feel free to send a question, statement, news article, or rant in text or audio to podcast@bogosity.tv. This podcast depends on you to keep going, so please donate using the links on the website or the QR codes in the thumbnail, or become a patron at patreon.bogosity.tv and get the podcast and YouTube videos early and without ads or promos. Thank you for listening, and thanks to Daniel Wilcox for joining me.
Glad to be back. It was fun.
Until next time, here's a quote from Max Weber. This naive manner of conceptualizing capitalism by reference to a pursuit of gain must be relegated to the kindergarten of cultural history methodology and abandoned once and for all. The Bogosity podcast is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Bogosity. Want answers to creationist claims against evolution? Would you like to know more about evolution yourself, or even engage creationists more directly, with actual peer-reviewed sources to back you up? My book, How Evolution is Scientific, is designed to show the basics of evolutionary theory and how it is so well supported using the scientific method. It's impeccably sourced, with references to the actual scientific material, and is arranged using the creationists' own criteria of what is scientific. Using their own arguments against them, see how evolution is scientific, but creationism is not, based on observations, accurate predictions, logic, and evidence. Get answers to common creationist claims, and even a primer on abiogenesis, the start of all life. It's all in my book, How Evolution is Scientific, available at Amazon and on Kindle, EPUB, and PDF as well. Get How Evolution is Scientific and never be taken in by creationists again.